I remember that. And that coincides with me coming back from New Jersey back to LA. And one interesting thing happened, right? I already made plans to have my ticket, the date I was leaving. And I already arranged to stay with a roommate. Not too far from you. You were in Hancock. I was in Palm.
Yep, 975 Hancock.
Yeah, on the other side of the block, actually. And I get a call from Kevin Dubrow, and where I was in New Jersey, and he says, "Hey, is this the Rudy, the guy that I met at the Starwood a few months ago?" And I go, yeah. Oh, okay. Listen, we're looking for a bass player, and everybody tells me that you're the guy, And actually, what happened was they've been through everybody in town, and I was like, everybody kept saying, "Well, you haven't tried this other guy, but he's not in town yet." So they got my number, and so Kevin sent me a tape to audition, for Quiet Riot. And I told him, yeah, I'm gonna be there next week. So I went, not knowing if what that really meant.
Sure.
Joining Quiet Riot.
Sure.
All I knew was like, okay, I'm going to go to LA, and
there's a possibility.
It's a possibility. I'm going to play with a band that I saw playing one night at the Starwood, who's got a great guitar player. That was my only reference, and I thought they were a really great club band that projected being an arena band. They had that going for them. They had a vision.
Personality, charisma, wardrobe, effects, lighting, everything.
There was a vision to the band. It was just not. I wasn't joining a top 40 band or a band that had no idea of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, they had direction.
They had direction. Yeah, and so I do the audition and I joined Quiet Riot. And at the time, I started living with a roommate. And working across the road on Palm, and where Sunset meets, there was a place called McNatural's.
That's right, I remember.
Across from Tower Records, it used to be. Yep. As a matter of fact, Michael Monarch lived in there, right there in the. They had a place near.
He lived
behind the A Pocket.
Well, he lived where the street where the whiskey is.
Yes.
If you went up that street, the first apartment building behind the stores, that's where he was living at the time. Yeah.
So that area was full of musicians.
Yeah.
Everywhere. All your neighbors were musicians or people that worked on the strip, like waitresses and bartenders and whatever, So it was
our people.
Yeah, it was really a great hangout. And I started playing with Quiet Riot, working at McNatural's.
Feeding me at McNatural's.
Feeding you, yes. Once in a while, yeah. I mean, whenever you came, I took care of my friends and bandmates. And I remember I used to, tie my hair, stick it inside my shirt so I look like Donny Osmond, my hair come back. And I would close this McNatural's, and which was actually, it was this experimental kitchen from the people that own the Source and was it the Old World?
The Old World, yep.
And the Velvet Turtle.
That one, and also the Melting Pot.
Melting Pot, all of that. And so it was great food, and fresh. And they offered veggie burgers. I learned how to make a killer veggie burger.
First time I ever had one was one of yours.
It was amazing. I mean, the ingredients that they included. But you had to make it by hand. Everything
but so
fresh.
much better than what you can get out. In the market these days.
Oh yeah, fresh, completely fresh. And I used to close the shop and grab my bass and walk over to the whiskey and play with Quiet Riot. So our fans, the Quiet Riot fans, would stop. And I would serve them smoothies and yogurt and whatever, and then I would turn around and be on stage
and entertain them.
Yeah.
One-stop shopping.
Yeah, and eventually I moved away from that apartment and wound up in Sherman Oaks on Riverside and Coldwater, living with Kevin.
That's right.
Who at the time? Okay, so. I really think I'm fast forwarding too much here because from the time that I was working at McNatural's, that's when Randy left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy. So there was a time that I really didn't have a band, except that we put together a band, you and I and Pete Comita and Bob James
from Private Army.
And we cut our hair. We tried to be new wave, but it just sounded like a heavy rock band.
Well, you remember we had the conversation in a parking lot by some dumpsters that if we did not do something in rock by a certain point, we were going to cut our hair and join the bandwagon.
Yes, we did.
Just to survive.
Yes, we did. And we gave it a shot.
Yep.
And we failed miserably at being new wave.
Well, I actually I wasn't quite ready to give up a shot at the new wave. I ended up playing in a band called Dana Ferris and Hubba Hubba.
That's right.
With such infamous lyrics as a song "Wops or Tops," "I drove pasta your house."
Wasn't there another one too?
Yeah, there was that one. There was also the band with Jeff Rawlings and a ska bass player, and that was called the Jeff Rawlings Band. We did that, which was a combination of rockabilly, ska, and me.
But I think your biggest contribution to new wave is that you actually recorded with Billy Idol.
That was an interesting one. I got a call. Excuse me, from drink some water here.
This is our water break.
I got a call from Keith Forsey, who I didn't know at the time. I don't even know how he got my phone number. That I've been recommended to go in and do a session. He didn't tell me who it was for. And at the time, I didn't even know who Billy Idol was. I didn't know who Gen X was, which was his band in the UK. And we went down to a rehearsal studio and rehearsed. Billy was great. We talked about films and stuff like that. He was a very nice guy. And then they booked studio time. I was supposed to cut just the one song, Moni Moni, and took 45 minutes to get the drum sound, cut the track in 30 minutes, and then they wanted to know if I could do the rest of the EP. And I only had time to do one more song. I did Baby Talk. And then from that, I had to leave because I was booked to do a session with Roy Thomas Baker, production session at Cherokee Studios. Mm-hmm. So that was a really, really productive time for me. Yeah, it's a really productive time.
Did you play with Billy Idol again later on?
Yeah, I got hired again. Actually, I signed a non-disclosure, so no.
No, okay, never mind. Okay. Okay, so I'm just trying to bring up what I was doing at the same time that you were doing something, because at one point our destinies meet again.
Yeah, it happened. It happened right after I went to Germany to do a record with Tony Carey, who was the keyboard player for Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. He had left the band, and he had a solo deal with a German label. So I went over to Germany for a month, and that was like a production line thing for me, because in the morning I'd be in Studio A, which was the small studio, playing percussion for other tracks. I actually played a typewriter for one song, where it was the old style typewriter, and when it got to the end it was the bell. So I actually had to count the number of beats so that the bell would hit on the downbeat at the end of the section. So so that would happen from 10 in the morning until 1. Then I had a lunch break 1 to 2. 2 o'clock I'd go into Studio B, and I ended up cutting a total of 22 singles for various German, French, English artists. And then I had a dinner break from 5 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock I go into the studio to record with Tony Carey. And Peter Hauke, the producer, wanted to test my time. So he had a curious way of doing it. First of all, he had a 9mm pistol, and he would set little bullets on the glass in the control room, as to say, one of these is for every time you're off beat. And I'd put the headphones on, and I'd be playing to the click track, and then he would just mute the click track in my headphones, and then put it in at odd bars to see if I was still on. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was the German way of recording.
How German?
Yeah, it was. I like to think of it as my own personal Mein Kampf period of recording. And after I did that for a month, my contract was for a month. I came back to LA, and that's when you and I reconnected.
Yeah. So in 80, basically, you did 79, 80, 81. You did Billy Idol.
Mm-hmm.
You did the Tony Carey. Also, you were involved in something with Nazareth music.
I got flown to Scotland to do a record with a Swiss guitarist named Vic Vergat. Mm-hmm. And that was Manny Charlton from Nazareth was the producer. And Manny was a very creative, very funny guy. And we had Saturdays off, and he picked me up in his little sports car. And he goes, "Do you like Scotch whiskey?" And I said, "Sure." We hit 17 distilleries in one afternoon. And then he says, "Do you play golf?" And I said, "No." He goes, "You're going to." And we went to St. Andrews, the birthplace of golf.
Yeah.
And before we were unceremoniously thrown off the greens, I set the greenskeepers back about 200 years because I was digging holes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was quite an experience.
And also, I'm trying to get chronologically. How did you meet Spencer? Because you did a project for him before Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
Billy, what's his name?
Billy Thorpe.
Billy Thorpe.
Yeah, I actually did Billy Thorpe. There was 4 records I did for him prior to Quiet Riot. It was Billy Thorpe, Danny Spanos, a couple of other ones that I did for him. Again, I got recommended by somebody. Somebody told Spencer about me, and Spencer said to me, the first time I met him, he goes, "Tell me if this is true or not." I said, "Okay." It was like being grilled by an LA police guy from the 40s, with a fucking billy club now. And he goes, "My understanding is that you're a fast learner and you track fast and you get a great drum sound." I said, "Guilty as charged." And he goes, "Okay." And we set up a schedule, and I started working at Pasha as their session drummer.
What year was that?
This was end of 81, beginning.
81, okay, so I'm trying to get
82.
chronologically,
Yeah.
because shortly after that is when what was known as Dubrow starts going in the studio.
To start cutting demos. We actually went into the studio first without Spencer at the record plant. And we did a series of demos at the record plant.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, which is what Spencer initially heard.
Yeah, and that's why later on a certain engineer made a claim.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a valuable lesson.
He's still coming back.
Yeah. It's a valuable. What it didn't cost us in studio time at the record plant certainly multiplied in debt.
Yeah.
Later on.
I know. Oh boy.
Now
okay.
you're leaving out one section.
Okay. No, see, I'm trying to get all this together. You tell me.
Now, remember the time that there was talk about replacing the drummer in Quiet Riot?
Yes. And I mentioned your name.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had seen Quiet Riot a number of times. You used to put me on the guest list, and I thought the band was great. To me, it was the complete package. I really could not understand how it is that a major label had not picked up the band. I mean, Randy was amazing. Kevin was a showman, as you know, all over that stage. You were the premier bass player. I mean, it was great. The whole thing sounded great. But to me, they were a pop band. And I was more into Monarch, that trio, which was more like Jeff Beck meets Led Zeppelin meets Free. So as much as I thought Quiet Riot were great, I didn't think that I would be a good fit for that music. But out of our friendship, and because Kevin wouldn't let it go, calling me, I said, okay, I come down. But I sabotaged myself. I showed up